I like this chocolate lily. This might be my little art inspiration here.
Yeah, there's so many flowers on lower down.
That's the violet one.
Different areas take different amounts of time to return because of the intensity of the fires. You look at some of the O2, O3 areas up in the high country that have never returned. We've still got almost bare ground in some areas. That's sort of the intensity, although it's a little bit different because up there we have ash trees and they don't return epicormic growth like that. They actually will have to seed and come back from seed. In a 7-year cycle, if you have 2 burns in that area, that's wiped that species out. It takes a lot longer for those types of environments to regrow than maybe something like what we're looking at here. Although when we go into the hotter areas of this fire, where there is a lot more rocky outcrops, it got really, really hot and some of those rocks have exploded, which is extraordinary to see. And those areas, especially along the ridgeline, are going to take a lot longer to return. In an area like this, Aboriginal people would leave it to re-veg and come back. If they came back through this area now, they wouldn't focus on any of the trees or the use of them. But what's coming back on the ground, the wildflowers and things like that, that's why they did natural burns, for bringing the forbs and the roots and the tubers and the plants on the grounds back, and your mid-story, because your mid-story is the one that has your little bit of fruits and stuff like that as well. So we're really lucky today to have the experience of walking through and seeing this, because a couple of years' time the wattles will grow up and it'll be like a bit of a dense bush again to walk through. Bracken fern, fantastic plant to have and use. It is a very invasive plant and that's what it does. It fulfills a purpose at the moment, and what it's doing is giving us that quick ground story to cover up and protect all these little forbs coming up. It's one of the first plants to take over after fire. There's fireweed, and then our next story will come back, wattles and things like that, and our callistemons, all those sorts of things. Then we're going to start getting those ground birds and snakes and lizards. When you get stung by a bee or an ant or a wasp or anything like that, just pick some up, really crush him up and rub it. It's better than any stingos you can possibly have. They did eat it, but only in times when everything else was completely sparse, or on the odd occasion, because what happens is it'll wield up toxins of carcinogenic properties in your body, make you sick, and eventually you would die. But the young, fresh sprongs, you can eat, so you can cook them up and eat them, but you wouldn't do it on a regular basis because it will make you sick. Here's the native buttercups. I don't know many recorded uses of the buttercup except for that it was snacked on. So I don't know if it bulbs or roots or tubers.
It's got a real peppery, hot sort of a taste. You want some chilli in your life?
It's hot.
It's hot, isn't it?
Found our first chocolate lily. You can dig these up all year round, and it was the tubers that were eaten, and you can actually eat them raw or roasted.
The fact that they were dug up disturbed the plant, which meant that it put out more tubers, so it was a way of increasing the population.
Yeah. They didn't completely take everything in one area. They only took a small amount, went to another spot, took a small amount. And the flowers, when they're out, early like this, they're still bitter. And I've noticed the light bluer ones are better, and they have a slight chocolate flavour. But it's actually the bulb or the roots that were the main staple stuff they were using.
How does it taste? It is a bit chocolatey.
Sometimes they can be really nice. Sometimes they've got a lot of bitterness, depending on how much water they've had and all those sorts of things.
No, it is. You know what it tastes a little bit? You know the almond icing that you get on a wedding cake?
Marzipan.
That's it.
So they're fantastic food. The same with our vanilla lilies when we see them. Same with the early Nancy's. I reckon we've got an early Nancy here. And this is an early Nancy down there. And early Nancy's, also we just dig up the roots, the bulbs, tubers underneath, and eat them. But you can have a nibble and try the flowers. Here's your milkmaids. Exactly the same use. You dig up the roots or bulbs or tubers for them. You can eat them raw or roasted. Cranesville, which is the native geraniums, and because they're pretty tough sort of roots, they roast the roots to these ones. Beautiful, beautiful. We have a native viola or violet, and they are fantastic. You can eat the leaf in the salads and things like that, but the flowers are delightful to eat as well. So it wasn't the roots or tubers of that one you're eating, it's actually the leaf and the flower.
Just don't go back to TAFE and eat all that viola.
It won't hurt.
Have a taste.
Yes. And don't go visiting people and eat all their gardens.
Have a smell, have a taste. The best way to learn how to ID it is smell and taste, smell and taste. Oh, that's a beauty.
Oh, I'm not eating it. The teeth will fall out.
Styrofoam? Go on, Renee.
Yeah, like styrofoam, really. Baker's dozen, which is just like a native bread, and it's just a fungus. It's just easier to bite it off than, yeah, just bite a bit. Sometimes actually when they're still damp, you can suck the juice out of them too. When they dry out like this, if you bake them a little bit over the fire, they'll become even more crispy. They're a bit chewy. This one's not quite really dry out. When they dry right out, you'll get little holes in them as well. And then you can, yeah, just heat them up a bit and eat them. Oh, look! Little mat rush. You get 2 nails. I won't strip him just yet.
Oh, they've got those little things on.
And you pull it, and then these seeds on here are lovely. And you grind them down, the part of your grinding when you're making flour. Lamandra.
A lot of plantain, Donna. Was there a use for plantain?
Just the seed, I think.
You grind him, you wouldn't just eat him raw.
Well, no, you can eat him.
Geez, you've got to eat a bloody lot, haven't you, to save yourself?
And the point is, when you're in the bush and you're walking every day, you eat little bits all the time. As you're going through the bush, you're nibbling constantly. And that's how you keep your energy and fluids and things up.
Isn't it? See these leaves here? See that powder stuff on there?
Yeah, rub it on your chest. It's for bronchitis, chest infections, anything like that. Just pick them and just rub them on your chest. The other thing they used to do with them, you throw them over the fire and you breathe the smoke in as well. In these sorts of areas, you're still looking at the bark and the use of the bark to make your coolamans, the use of the young shoots as your digging sticks and your clap sticks and things like that. And different woods have different qualities. So it just depends on what you're making. So in somewhere like this at the moment, the boxes and things you aren't going to touch, of course, because they're just been burnt. If you're down in Chiltern, they started using things like calitris pine, the sap from the calitris, and they used the calitris to make their spear shafts and things like that. Around here, I would be imagining this area's got grass trees, and that was the preferred thing to use as your spear shafts and things would have been, and around here since it's available. You've got to look at the local geology, you've got to look at the local vegetation and the fauna flora of the area and the climate. And that will tell you in a lot of ways what plants and things they would be using. Their cultures grew around that. And that's what defined a group from another group. And that's their language, what they use, their stories were all based on what was available in their area. A lot of information about plant use has been lost. You think of the diversity of species of plants now and what have become extinct, and there's an immense variety of uses possible from all of those. We only know a small little amount in comparison to what it was because it was one big shopping centre.